Watch this. No way!
Padraig, welcome to the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast. Thank you for having us in your lovely home. We'd started by saying brought to you by FootJoy, and obviously we're here on behalf of FootJoy. You've been doing hitting some balls today.
I've had a great day with FootJoy, yeah. It was a shoe testing day. What's interesting about that, I'm pretty sure I'm in the right shoe, but I did have questions because during the winter I'd been practicing a bit in tennis shoes. And indoors, I've found that the tennis shoes are great for my footwork. But the minute I took them to the golf course, there just wasn't enough traction in them. I'd say they lasted 5 minutes in Dubai. So I'm back to my Tour Alpha, which I've always been happy with, but the confidence in it. We tried the Pro SLX as well, which were good.
Tempted.
Yeah, I will have a look at the Pro SLX. They were very, very, very comfortable, a little lighter than the Tour Alpha. And they potentially could offer the same stability, but I say potentially. I know I'm in the best shoe in the Tour Alpha, so for anything to beat that will be a bit of a stretch. But it's something to look forward to and try and experiment. So the great thing with FootJoy, and this is the FootJoy, they are a golf shoe company. Yeah. Everybody else is a different shoe company trying to make a golf shoe. They have to make the best shoe for everybody. There has to be an option because they don't exist unless they're the best. They're not out there making trainers for running. They're not out making gym shoes. They're making golf shoes.
Before we started rolling, I've been watching you. This is about the fourth time I've seen you throw some darts. It's pretty good darts. And we were talking before we came on air about, and I loved where this went. What's harder, a 9-darter, a 147, or a hole-in-one? And you were...
Very, very simple. And we could argue this all day, every day. And the problem is people are coming from different sides. So for a professional golfer, it's evens to have a hole-in-one in a tournament. So that would make it 2 tournaments, 1,800 shots per tournament. So 3,600 to 1 is the odds of having a hole-in-one for a pro in a given one-shot thing. So for a professional golfer, professional dart player or professional snooker player, clearly for me to have a hole-in-one, I could be there 8 hours and wouldn't have one. But I guarantee a professional snooker player would be there within 8 hours. He would have a 147, and a professional dart player would have a 9-darter. So for professional standard, a hole-in-one for a pro is way more unlikely. But for amateur standard, there's no beginner amateur who can have a 9-darter or a 147. It's like even somebody like myself who's like a mid-60s is my high break in snooker, right? Good. I'm never having a 147. It's just never happening. I could throw the dartboard, darts. If I got a 180, I'm like ecstatic. I can't have a 9-darter. I just can't. But a raw beginner can have a hole-in-one. So at the amateur level, hole-in-one is by far the easiest. By pro level, I would think you're going to have to argue between a 9-darter and 147. Like I think at this stage, like you really need to go and look at the World Championships. Like, was there 3 9-darters at the World Championships? Like would there be 3 147s? There probably is nowadays. So it's pretty close on those two at the high level. But you'd have to achieve such a standard at snooker and darts to get to those levels. Whereas in golf, there is such an element to look at a hole-in-one that a beginner can do it.
The amount of thought you've given that is probably a pretty good indictment as to why I think you're one of the most fascinating people to play the game, actually, Padraig, because you are a deep thinker on all levels of the game of golf and a fascinating person to talk to. I guess talking to you about your performance and your quest to get better and how your game has evolved is a brilliant story. I'm really curious though to just talk a little bit about maybe before being professional, maybe introduction to golf as a junior and what shaped you and some of your amateur experiences that maybe you don't get a chance to talk about all that often.
Yeah. Well, before I get on to that, I will own up to the fact that I really should have a burner account for Twitter and Instagram because all those rows that you see going on, all those social media rows, I'd love to be involved in it. I'd love to be
You
in
don't
there.
need a burner account. Just get involved.
Yeah, just have a cookie jar
you know,
one.
I did twice. I've gone in with one of the stats guys. I know him, I follow him, and I got absolutely burnt on one of them because I commented on his message. So his followers just completely ratioed killed me. Whereas he commented on one of mine and he got killed. He got absolutely burnt. So I've learned the fact if you get into somebody else's timeline, you're getting into his fans who are diehard.
Yeah.
So you have to be very careful. You need neutral ground if you're going to have arguments. And I'll have argument. I'm the youngest of 5 boys, so maybe this is going back to, you know, everything about me is I'm a little bit a contrarian, trying to get in the middle of the arguments of your older brothers and sort it out and, you know, pacify. And so as my brothers would have said, everybody would have said, like, if they turned around and said the sky was blue, I'd say no, that's actually green. you know I've just, that's kind of my person for fun. And I'd argue the other way around with somebody else. So the next person said it was green, I'd say it's actually blue. So yeah, I'm that's a little bit of my nature. And look, I'm the youngest of 5 boys. So my father was a policeman, and in the early 70s he took up golf he was a top class Gaelic footballer, and he took up golf, was playing a bit of golf, and then kind of figured out that the young police coming to the city, well, they probably weren't welcome in golf clubs, and they certainly couldn't afford to play golf. So they built their own course. So the police in Ireland, a dozen of them got together, they convinced the social club to lease the land, and they physically built that golf course. 1971 is when they started, so just about when I was born. So I lived my life on that golf course.
Wow.
I can remember levelling greens on the golf course as a 5-year-old. My older brothers picked the stones and things off the quarries and all that. They did the manual labour. But it was somewhere I just hung out. And like, can you imagine, like, from 5 years of age, I had the full run of a golf course, running around on my own, doing my own thing. Like, go out there, you know, searching for golf balls, rabbits, whatever it was.
What a dream.
Like, can you imagine letting a kid out in a golf course now? It's amazing the difference we have. And like, you can't go out there on your own. You could get hit by a golf ball. I was out there full out, but it was my life, but it wasn't my passion at that time. I thought I was going to be a Gaelic footballer. Like, I played football all the way through. I played soccer as well. I was a goalkeeper, which is easy to see why a lot of the golfers are goalkeepers, because it's a weird, you need a weird personality to be a goalkeeper. So you can see the individual side of it, and then it's a miserable place because the team wins, you don't get the glory. The team loses, you get the thing. So it's amazing. I'd say without doubt the most common position that golfers played in when you go throughout Europe. I was a goalkeeper. So yeah, I think, like, I captained my school team, high school team, secondary school. Finished up in our national stadium was my last match. I played in Croke Park in the final. Captained my team. So I thought that was my sport. But what happened is, by the time, I know that was when I was 17, but by the time, maybe 14 years of age, I was playing 2 soccer matches and a Gaelic match on the weekend because I was a goalkeeper, so I could play. And I started winning at golf. And all of a sudden, these things were getting in my way. And you can't not turn up as a goalkeeper. So really, I had to, quickly drift away from those team sports outside of school. I still played in school, and golf was it. But it was, I don't know if it was because I was good at golf, or I loved the game, my whole family loved the game, or whether I was winning at golf, that all these things just started drawing me more and more. Maybe it was just being in control of my destiny. I don't know. I kind of think that a lot of people, they go to a sport based on the success they're having in it. And I started winning in my club, then around the club, then the county, then the province. The one thing about my whole career which really differs from the kids today, I never really played outside my level. So when I was under 15, I played under 15s. When I was under 18, I played. I didn't play a pro event until I was 24 years of age.
So you got used to winning within your peer group.
I'm a big fan.
Whereas now people play above, don't they? Kids playing amateur championships.
I'm a big fan of being a big fish in a small pond and winning in your area and then stepping into the next area. I like to see people winning, but that's maybe because of my own personal experiences. But I like to see, I like building up that confidence, being in contention, learning to win. So for me, I would prefer to see, a 16-year-old winning the under 18s title rather than finishing 10th in the senior title. So I know it's finishing 10th would be great, or I just feel there is a habit in winning, and chasing winning and being in that, putting yourself in that position. We do see that a lot in professional golf. There are players that subconsciously sabotage themselves because they're so uncomfortable with losing. And if you want to win, you better get used to losing, because that's just part of winning. You got to be in there, putting yourself out there, having those brutally tough Sunday evenings where you have just completely messed it up. But realistically, that's the only way to get enough wins.
Do you think, am I right in thinking that when you were a lot younger, when winning didn't come immediately, like there was a lot of finishing second and that tenacity of, I'm going to keep going, being in contention that really drives.
Yeah, as an amateur. So again, I would win at my each level and move up. I had a period as an amateur where I went 18 months in Ireland. Over 36 holes or more, I never lost. I won every single time for 18 months.
Insane.
It was an insane stat. And at the end of the 18 months, I always say, and this is, I quote this and everybody laughs at me now because I quote, at the end of them 18 months, I went to the European Championships, led the qualifiers, last man out. I needed to shoot break 70 for our team to qualify. We qualified. I led the European qualifiers, tied that, went out and won all my matches. And I didn't get picked on the Eisenhower team. I hadn't been beaten for 18 months in Ireland, and I didn't get picked on the 4-man team. So this was part of who I was. At 18 years of age, I didn't get picked on the Irish junior panel of 20 players. I was the best in the country and I didn't get picked.
What do you think?
was that?
Why do you think that was?
Because I didn't look the best.
Swing or?
So I was the perfect golfer if we were doing the not the Masked Singer, what's the singer where they don't get to see the voice? I was the perfect golfer. As in, if you only saw my performance, I was the best golfer.
Yeah.
But I couldn't see past, people say, oh, you walk like your dad, you walk like a policeman, you got a farmer's walk, I had a bit of a funky swing, and I did. I just had an unbelievable short game. I was very tenacious. So my results were good. So at 18 years of age, I didn't get picked on that team. I got overlooked at the Eisenhower at one stage. So I wasn't turning pro. I didn't believe in myself. And what happened is, from 18 through to 24, I played for Ireland and was never beaten in singles. So I beat the number one guy from England, Scotland, Wales, because I was always playing at the top of the order in the home internationals every year, in the European Championships every year. And I went, hang on a second here, these guys are great and they're turning pro and I'm beating them. Maybe I should turn pro. So even I didn't maybe believe as much, but I was beating other people. So I said I'd give it a go. So I had done accountancy at night. So I finished that, qualified, passed my exams, not qualified because I didn't do my articles, but I passed all my exams and turned pro. Now, what you're referring to is the second places. I don't regret this, but very much of my golfing life, and I'm 53 years of age and still somewhat have to be reminded not to be this person. I'm very much a dreamer about what I'm going to do in the future. So I put things on like I sacrifice now for the future. And all those second places, I did have wins. It was 24 second places, plenty of third places, fourth places, fifth places that we don't even count. I've prolific at getting in contention. In those wins and I did have wins, so it wasn't like I wasn't winning anything. But I should have had more wins. And again, it's experience, it's not a regret, but there's no doubt if I was going to change anything going back, the amount of times I'd be in contention on a Saturday evening and I'd close the driving range with practice. And I'd have found something new and special for the next day.
Yeah.
And I'd hit the ball better the next day, but I'd make worse decisions.
Yeah.
So, and I talk to a lot of golfers. this isn't a rule for sure, because one of my bugbears with a lot of golfers is they refuse to allow themselves play well until they're swinging it perfect. It's amazing the amount of golfers that they will play. You know, you can pick them out yourselves, guys. You'll see them out there. When they win, they just look like these guys are the best players in the world. And yet they wait the whole year for that 1 week where the swing feels perfect to allow themselves to compete. My issue, and not my issue, it's amazing how well I could play when I had something going wrong. I was brilliant. Like
a dog fighter, you sort of dug it out. You could.
Well, I'd manage myself unbelievably well.
Yeah.
So you know, if you had a hook, you'd understand. Okay, well, you can't hook it down this hole, so don't hook it on this. You know, you know, that sort of way. Whereas oftentimes I'd practice on a Saturday evening, correct some flaw that I felt was there for the last 6 holes on a Saturday evening, and I still have a problem with this. The last 6 holes, back 9, I'm working out what I'm going to practice afterwards in the middle of the round.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to work on this. I come in and work on it. I'd hit the ball better the next day, but I'd be overconfident. Whereas the day before, with a little bit, oh gee, don't hit it left, I'd manage it very nicely and take my opportunities when they came around.
Just before we dive into some of the professional stuff and working with some of the different people in terms of your game, just reflecting back on, you played 3 Walker Cups, I believe.
Yes.
And I mean, 91 was a pretty iconic one at Portmarnock.
Yeah.
That was Phil Mickelson, presumably first exposure to sort of seeing him maybe a little bit. Yeah, 95 Porthcawl and Tiger. Like, these were some really big Walker Cups in hindsight, aren't they?
Yeah, in hindsight, the US team always delivers the stars of the future. It's incredible how all their stars, really does deliver the stars, the US team, and no different than that. Strangely enough, the star for me in 91 was Alan Doyle. I've never seen anybody hit the golf ball as well as him. To this day, it was just the pureness of his ball strike, and he's a really funky swing. If you remember Alan Doyle, he turned pro when he was 50 and won some Champions Tour events. Like he was the ultimate. Like, he learned how to swing in his garage, so he couldn't make a big backswing because the roof was in the way. But it's phenomenal. But you if you don't know him, you need to, like, this guy is the good as ball striker as you've ever come across.
Really?
Middle of the club face every time. Like, and remember, he had a funky swing. So to try and beat somebody with a funky swing who you underestimate is just so hard.
Yeah, you're sort of one down almost.
Yeah, because you think, it's going to go wrong, but it didn't go wrong. 93 they had a phenomenal team in 93. We got hammered in 93. We were poor. We were a poor team. Even though 93, the GB&I Walker Cup team had the most success in the pro ranks, and yet we got really annihilated. It was, for a lot of us, and for me, it was my first experience on a US style golf course. You know, heavy rough, that sort of thing. It was definitely alien. Winning in 95 at the Walker Cup was important for me because it gave me closure. I played 2 Walker Cups, lost them, come back and win in 95, Royal Porthcawl. We had an unbelievable team, like just great camaraderie in the team. It was really, it's amazing when you look back at different teams, how well that team gelled together. It was, maybe I saw it different as I had aged and matured into it, but that was a phenomenal team. So very important for me to have got that over with. It gave me closure on my amateur career. Turned pro, went to tour school. I think I managed to go through. It was I didn't get an opportunity to go to first stage. I had to go straight to second stage, which is different than what we're talking in modern times, because first or second stage were actually got you straight to the final. I think I did 9 rounds without not chipping a putting or 3-putting. So I chipped them. Certainly in the first 3 rounds, I never once didn't fail to get up and down, and I never 3-put.
That'll get it done.
And in the tour school, I wasn't far off that. I probably wasn't the same, but at that time, that sort of finishing my amateur career, starting my pro career, was without doubt the best short game I've ever. Like, whatever you think you could, that was. I remember we used to have to go to an orientation back when we turned pro. When you got your card, you had to go to, it was the Apollo week and then the McGregor week. You had to go to a week, like, maybe it was a week. It was certainly a few days of orientation where you go down and they had coaches. So, and this is, again, pivotal. Lots of things happen. But I go there and I hit a pull cut. That is my game. And John Jacobs was there. Says, "Oh," I says, "I can't draw the ball." He says, "Oh, well, if you want to draw the ball, just open the door and close the door, but close it, a foot short of the ball. So just imagine you opening a door and shutting the door, but try and shut the door a foot or 18 inches before contact so that it shuts." Lo and behold, I'm now hitting a draw. I'm hitting big draw. It's going 20 yards further. This is 1996. What has just come out? Great Big Bertha. I'm now 40 yards further.
Yeah.
And
You're playing a different game.
Yeah, well, here's this guy going out with the most unbelievable short game, and somebody's just turned around and added, I say 40 yards, but we can guarantee 20 yards.
Yeah.
I've just added 20 yards of length, maybe 40 yards of length. Now, I played for 2 years with what people would have said was a hook, like 40-yard draw. It was just the most phenomenal thing ever. I was thrilled.
That shot when it's down the middle.
Oh, it was perfect. I just hang it out to the right. It was a young man's game. You just whacked it out to the right. It came back. It was great. It was only when you lose your little bit of nerves that draw it turns into a low cut. But for 2 years, I just loved it. And I got to, it was the US Open at Olympic Club. And I played the best golf I could and got the ball up and down as well as I could and finished 27th. And I came back from the tournament. I said, well, that's as good as I could do. I could not do any better. If I want to win a major, how do I go about this? And that's when I changed coach. First really big change. I got a new trainer. I started with a trainer, Dr. Liam Hennessy, who's the best in the business. But the big change was I'd worked with a Howard Bennett, who 100% instrumental in who I am and my personality as a golfer, completely nurtured me. But I needed more, and Bob Torrance was the man.
Bob Torrance is something that Sam and I have discussed prior to coming in. Really, really fascinated to understand the relationship with Bob and how he's moulded you into the player you are now.
Well, we were the perfect match. So Bob, I went to him because every player he had was a winner and every player he worked with was a good ball striker. And Bob got somebody who was prepared to stand in the range for 12 hours like him, and also somebody who had the short game. So Bob didn't really teach the short game. Bob's understanding of the short game is if you do need to chip, it's backwards on a par 4 after you've driven over the green, because that could be the only reason why,
because you're on every other green in reg.
If the iron's good enough, you're on the green.
Yeah. Now, what was interesting about Bob, and it's only now in hindsight you realise, he was actually an unbelievable sports psychologist. Like people don't realise he really, really knew his sports psychology in a different way. Like I was telling a story earlier, and just talk to any players. You get a couple of us talking about Bob because we remind each other of the stories, but like one sip of the medicine at a time. So he was always like, he'd tell you something, but he wouldn't tell you the full story because he'd be afraid that you'd go and try and take it all at once.
You go to the back of the book.
Yeah, you got to start and work your way down in order for it to stick. But everything Bob taught, now he did use video, VHS video and look back at it. But everything he taught back then, there's nothing they're talking about. All the science that has come into the game, there's nothing that Bob Torrance taught that doesn't hold up today. Done nothing at all. He had a phenomenal eye for, a phenomenal love for. He was a joy to be around. Like just his enthusiasm late into his 70s. You always enjoyed your time around him. He never worked like nobody loved his golf more than Bob Torrance, and it was a match made in heaven, but it was perfect timing too.
There was a big Irish contingent, am I right in thinking, that kind of went across to see him?
Yeah, well, he's a Celt like the rest of us, so there was that familiarity. But I think I would have went because Philip Walton was one of a great ball striker. Paul McGinley was a great ball striker. These guys were all there, but to be honest, everybody went to Bob Torrance. All the greats would have went and had a lesson. There was nothing, when it came to the golf swing, and I wouldn't have realised again. I'd be naive enough golfer at that stage that I kind of minded my own business, kept my head down and did my own thing. So after a while of watching Bob, I remember another top class player came to him and he told him something totally the opposite to me. And like I was horrified. I waited, like I was waiting in the wings to get him and say, you know, why are you giving him that information and you're telling me? And he like, Bob, but he says, no, he has to go again. Maybe the woman said, he can't do that. He needs to do this and go down this road before we can bring him back to this. We're marrying him on more Hogan. We're looking at Sneed with you, you know. So he wasn't trying to teach the one swing to everybody.
Yeah.
He had, you know, he was looking at body structure, at size, at type in order to teach the player. Even though, you know, the end product might come out the same, but it was definitely very. I don't know if I had a chip in my shoulder, because Bob absolutely loved Ben Hogan, but he never ever taught me Ben Hogan. He only ever talked about Sam Sneed when it came to me.
So I suppose he's a bit like a good chess player or a good snooker player. They kind of see 20 moves ahead, don't they? They see how you're going to react to it and the journey they're going to take you on. And you don't realise that at the time, but with hindsight, you just think, yeah, do you know what? He kind of moulded me into a player that was capable of, playing at the
He
top
said this
level.
every day. And again, I said he actually was a golfing genius. He said this every day about himself. He says, would he be wise enough as a teacher that if he got a young Lee Trevino to leave him alone?
Mm. It's
Like,
amazing.
every day he asked himself that question. Would he have the ability, the guts to get a young Lee Trevino, see a few funky moves, but recognise the genius of the ball striking and just leave well enough alone? So he even into his late 70s, he was still testing himself. Can he be, you know, not enforce what he thinks is a golf swing onto somebody, and understand that the personality of the person and whatever, you know, hang-ups or not hang-ups, but whatever, everybody has individual moves, that he would recognize what makes him a great ball striker and what's irrelevant. So even in his late 70s, he's still questioning himself.
How do you sort of graduate from being a player that's arriving on tour to then kind of making that? Is it just lots of little baby steps before you get to the ring at a major championship and think,
Yeah,
I'm good enough to get one of these over the line here?
yeah, no, I'm a believer, and I see this at times. I could have taken my card in the US from 2000 onwards. You know, I made Ryder Cup in 99. There was plenty of, but I didn't want to go. I wanted to learn how to win. I felt I was developing in Europe, and in Europe, and this is a problem in the modern game. If you're a really top class player, like if you look at somebody like Adrian Meronk 2 years ago, if you went and had a look at his year, he might have had, did he have 2 or 3 wins in the year?
Not sure.
But he probably had 15 plus tournaments where he had a chance on the back nine.
Mm.
Now, I'm using his as an example because that was who I was. I was getting in contention nearly every second week. With, you know, maybe I needed to shoot 6 under the back nine, but I had a chance. Some days I needed to shoot 6 over and I would have won.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had a chance in the back nine, and that's where you want to learn how to play your golf. That same golf at that time, if I'd gone to the PGA Tour, I might have had 2 or 3 chances in the year to win.
Yeah.
So I wasn't in, you know, I might have got a big win, but I wasn't getting the 15 opportunities to learn how to figure out what I need to do in what situation.
It's back to winning at your level, isn't
Yeah,
it?
being a big fish in a small pond. And by the way, as well, the European Tour is brilliant for minding its stars. You know, if you're a big star in Europe, you're getting big TV draws, you're getting, you know, you're getting put up in the hotel, you're getting looked after, you've got to do some, you know, all the media, all the social, you only have to follow the European social media to see who they're looking after. So, you know, they're doing this, and that's building up your confidence. When you get the penthouse suite in the hotel, you feel like pretty Billy Big Bollocks, no doubt about it. You know, it's good for you. So that happens in Europe. You go to the States, if you don't win, you're literally thrown to the dogs pretty quickly. You know, you're not going to hold down, you're not a big enough star. If you're American, you can play well and still get success in terms of profile. If you're European, you actually have to win quickly to keep that going. So yeah, I feel, I know the Europeans have done brilliant, and I've exceeded my own expectations how well the 10 guys going across. But I often look at them and say, hang on a second, guys. You know, some of you are 2-3 years away from being there. So in my case, I stayed in Europe. So a couple of things happened. 2002, I needed to par the last to get in a playoff for Muirfield. And I had a horrible week chipping and putting. So this was the most sublime week I've ever had tee to green and the worst week chipping and putting. And I needed to par down the last to get in a playoff. Now, I was ahead of Ernie at the time. I tried to make birdie and bogey the hole, as it turned out. But I had no concept of what happened, why I was there. It was an outlier to me. I couldn't figure out why was that such a good week, what happened. And to many, it was a lost week to me. But by the time I got to 2000, another few years later, 2004, I started figuring out, okay, when I go to majors in the US, I'm feeling uncomfortable. And 3 of them are over there, so this is an issue. So I felt I had to take my card in the States. Now, the reason for taking it is if you play regularly on the PGA Tour, when you turn up at a major, you're meeting the same faces you've met the last 3 weeks, the last 4 weeks, the same manufacturers, the same managers, the same people all the time. So you turn up at a major, it's not as special. It's not as unfamiliar.
Yeah.
And that's very important. The last thing you want when you're at a major is to be out of your comfort zone. So I had to take my card for that because I was ready. And essentially what happened, by the time I got to 2006, I had a plan. It took me 3 weeks, 2 tournaments, and then the major to get ready. I had a plan in place. And when I did that, I got in the zone and played my best golf. So 2006, Winged Foot, I had 3 pars to win at Winged Foot. I had a putt in the last to get in the playoff, as it turned out in Winged Foot. A bogey the last 3 holes.
Wasn't it?
People, yeah, that was a crazy event. People, but look, I had 3 pars to win. Like, you know.
Yeah, and everyone thinks it's Phil, wasn't it?
And I hit the 3 fairways. Yeah. Which is even worse. Like, I hit great shot into, anyway, look, but I walked off the green and you go under the bleachers American, and we go up. There's a beautiful walk up to the clubhouse. It's a 50-yard walk, beautiful garden, everything, and it's quiet. It's amazing. The bleachers all looking out, and you go in behind it and you walk up the clubhouse and it's serene, it's beautiful. And I'm walking up there, and Bob Rotella, who I'm working with, he's waiting for me at the door before I record, like, you know, to give me the nod. You know, basically to take the shoelaces from me, because you know, I've just bogeyed the last 3 holes. I've nodded at him, and I've actually been a little bit cruel. I've just kind of nodded and went on. I didn't give him. I came back out and I just said, Bob's like about to talk me down, and I said, look, Bob, now I know I can win a major. That was the first time I'd played a major tournament where I had played the golf that I didn't feel like I got lucky or needed to be lucky or I needed anybody else's help. That was the first time I believed I could win a major. Up to then, I thought I could win a major by getting lucky, getting a great break, having a big week. But right there, I felt really comfortable that I could win with nobody else's help. And I'm going to skip here because just in case we lose this point. So going into the majors I won in 2007, 2008, same process. I believed I was the best golfer and I could get my very best golf. And my whole goal was prepare right, get myself in position. I'll play well 3 of the 4 majors. I'll be in contention 2 out of the 4. And over 2 years, if I'm in contention 4 times, I'll surely get 1. And as it turned out, I got 3. Now, what was really interesting, I did the same thing in 2009. And had great chances. People think I stopped playing after 2008.
Retired.
Yeah, I had a much better year in 2009, especially second half of 2009. I had a much better year 2010. My best year stats-wise, tee to green, was like 2012. So
people just think you'd hit your heyday.
Yeah, I got better. I just didn't win, but I was really good. I had great chances in 2009. I'd still had chances in 10. Not as many chances, but I played well in 10. Where I was broken, it's even in hindsight that I look, Rory broke me in 2011.
Congressional was that?
Yeah. So what happened, and this happens to every...
They broke everyone, didn't they?
Yes, but forget that. They broke everybody, but I was the best player. That's what I believed. So I've gone into Congressional. Adam Scott said, I played a practice round with Adam Scott on Wednesday. He came in and did an interview and told everybody to go home. He says, you might as well go home. Padraig Harrington's winning this. Okay?
Wow.
I am, in my head, I am the best player. I've won 3 majors like just recently, I'm in great form. I prepared right. I go into this tournament and Rory does something that I can't compete with. He just wipes the floor out. Like we're all the same. He's just blown us all away. Right. But that's okay. If I thought I could get better, that's fine. You know, so when Tiger was doing that in the early 2000s, I was only on my way up. This is me at my best, and I don't think I can compete with him. So the big difference, and it's happened, you name every player who's hit a peak. In 2008, I was not looking over my shoulder. I was only concerned about me. 2011 onwards, I'm now thinking I'm not good enough. I need to be a better version of me in order to compete with Rory. Now, you don't realise it at the time. But I guarantee you that happened to Rory after 2014. He was trying to compete with Jordan or trying to compete with JT or DJ. You know, everybody hits that point where they go out, they're on the golf course and they're thinking, you know what, if I play my game, these guys can't beat me. Now, it doesn't have to be real, but that's what they're thinking.
Do you think there's simultaneously that feeling of being I am the best? Do you think it's simultaneously a strength and a weakness?
Oh, massive. So like in my eyes, you know, and this is judgment, and we're all judged, I think it killed Monty. So Monty in Europe walked around and he genuinely believed that he was the best and nobody could compete with him and we all feared him. And that might have been the case. So when he talks about getting on the leaderboard and if he got on the leaderboard and there'd be only 10 people on the leaderboard, if he got on the bottom, he'd see himself working the way up. He knew everybody was afraid of Monty. But it worked in reverse for him in the States because they didn't care about him.
Yeah.
Or at least he didn't think they cared about him. They gave him a terrible tee times, first out, last off. Like, I know he got in contention in majors where the majors were better because there was more Europeans. It was more like somewhat more familiar. But regular tour events, Monty was treated so badly. He was treated the opposite of Europe. He was the man in Europe, and in the States, you know, they did the opposite to him. And I personally believe Monty was the best golfer in the world by miles in '98, and Tiger was out at that stage. Yeah. You know, Monty was a phenomenal player. Like, you've never seen ball striking like Monty's. So how could he not have won one event in the States? It had to be that he just felt disrespected in the States, disrespected, not he was so much, he used that confidence so much in Europe that when he didn't have it in the States, it hurt him. That would be my looking in for the outside. There's no other reason to. You cannot believe how good a ball striker Monty was.
Really?
Like, it was like he savaged par fives and long par fours because he was such a good ball striker. He basically hit his driver 270 yards into the wind and downwind. He didn't hit it any longer. He never looked at a fairway bunker because why would he? He's going to hit it down the middle. And then he hit his 3-wood, that thing with the reddened shaft. He used to hit that 270 as well. So now there was no par 5 540 yards, so he hit the middle of every par 5. Like, people think of Monty as a great ball striker, but they don't think of him as long. But two shot wise, he was longer than anybody.
Yeah,
because of that second strike, and with those big chunky Callaways he used to use, his 3-iron was phenomenal. He just like how that man didn't destroy US golf courses and just win over and over. It had to be
above the shoulders. You think it's a bit?
No, it's like anybody. If you use, you always have to be wary where your confidence is coming from. So if you're an outwardly person who, and I'm not saying Monty's like this, but if you use, say, outward confidence where you go, I'm the best, look at me, it can work. But when it breaks spectacularly. You know, Monty was in Europe, he puffed out his chest and he walked around there like he was the man. And that's helped him. But when he got to the States and, you know, you're getting first tee time, last tee time, you're taking the flags in, you know, you just get like really, they were harsh on like, you know, the exact opposite, like it was the exact opposite of Europe. In Europe, when an average American player would come over, he'd get put up in the penthouse suite, he'd get the main tee time, and he'd get interviewed and everything. And he'd play like a star because he's treated like a star. Whereas if a European went across, he'd get nothing. He'd get the worst tee time, and he'd end up playing like that.
Do you think, you mentioned earlier on your work with Bob Rotella.
Yeah.
Do you think that, you know, work with him on the mental side of the game helped you adapt to American golf a bit better than, say, Monty?
Different personality. I spent my whole life. So when I came out on tour, the biggest thing for me when I came out on tour, I played against Ernie, Monty, Retief Goosen would have been the three in Europe at the time. I watched them on TV. They were stars. How am I going to play against them? These guys, when I was an amateur, remember, I already thought I wasn't good enough. I'm watching these guys and I thought these were like, so I had to deal with trying to compete with people I thought were better than me. So the way I did that was regress into just doing my thing and playing my golf. So one of my stats that I'm informed of, told, is I'm the only player who played with Tiger during his heyday more than 10 times to outscore him when playing with him.
Really?
But Tiger, for me, was no different than playing with Monty. Tiger was no different than playing with Ernie, because these guys were so far ahead of me in my head. The only way I can compete was put the blinkers on and do my own thing. So when I moved to playing against Tiger, I wasn't trying to play him. I was just trying to manage myself. So I wasn't in any way outwardly focused. I was completely internally focused to doing my own thing. So yeah, in an ideal world, you create your own reality, and it's internal itself. You don't let other people affect how you feel about yourself. Now, that's ideal, and we but I was very, 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 because I thought everybody was better than me, I was very much focused on what I was doing. I always had that feeling as an amateur all the way through. I always felt I'm not good enough. I've got to get better. Like psychologists will tell you, fear is the worst thing. I played my whole life with fear. Fear worked really well, and fear works great for people. Why run away from it? I focus so much better with fear. It sharpens my focus. The adrenaline, the push, I narrow my focus with fear. Fear is good. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of energy. I will agree, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have any of that. But fear was a very good one for me. And that's why I had that success at different levels, at majors and things like that. Played above myself in I felt was above myself in many places, because I was so internally focused on doing my own thing. My biggest struggle in my whole golfing career is if I'm playing a match against somebody I think I should beat. I play terrible. If I've got a lead, a 3-4 shot lead, I'm hopeless.
Yeah.
And I still to this day, I create panic coming down the end when I've got a big lead. I'm much better off a shot behind. Other people get comfortable in those positions. I'm great when I'm behind. I just go for it. When I'm ahead, I obviously a bit of defensiveness and whatever. So, we all have personalities. And again, I'm only judging people from the outside. I don't know fully what's going on. But, from my own personal experience, Bob Rotella, just helped me trust that being myself is the only thing. He's never changed his story. I had a great preparation when I believed when I believed I was good enough to win, I allowed myself prepare to win. Sort of 2011 onwards, I didn't believe I was good enough to win, so I was always chasing something else. Now I started winning again on the Champions Tour because I'm back in that thing where, you know what, I'm going to be in contention here on Sunday. So all my focus is about being ready for Sunday. Whereas when you don't quite believe, you spend all your focus getting ready for Thursday. That's a big difference. I think that was another great trait of Monty. Monty spent his whole life getting ready for Sunday afternoon because he knew he was going to be in contention. Whereas I was running around like a headless chicken Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, trying to get ready for Thursday morning. There was, a lot of panic in the way I went about things. But in that period where I won those majors, there was none of that. I fully believed. And you could turn around, well, why don't you believe today? Believing there's a lot you can help yourself with believing, but we see you will find it very hard. There will be an outlier, but you will find it very hard to find any professional golfer that doesn't have an 18-month peak in his career. So a 2-season, 18-month peak, and they're never as good afterwards. You find me that player that hasn't had that real run. Maybe Bernard Langer, we could talk about, but even Tiger had 4 majors. It doesn't mean that he wasn't world number one for 10 years or 12 years or whatever it was. But at one stage, he was so far ahead of the rest, it was untrue. You can look at Jordan Spieth. You can look at, like, we all remember DJ. Like, DJ at that stage, when he slipped and hurt his back at the Masters, like, we were giving him the Masters. Everybody was saying, well, there's no point. We're all playing for second place. That's how far ahead he was.
Harrington in 2011.
Yeah, well, yeah, Adam Scott. I wish Adam Scott was right.
Had the career arc, though, just want to kind of dwell on it a sec, because you talked about it there, 2011, and this thing with Rory, and, it's fascinating because your career arc is so long and wide, and you've kind of, how much of that has just comes down to, do you know what, I'm obsessed with the craft of hitting golf balls and getting better, versus the obsession with, how the media interpret you and what other people say about you?
Yeah, look, as regards to media, I've listened to Victor Hovland the other day, talking about not liking his golf swing and the changes he's making and things, and I'm just screaming, don't do it, Victor. Don't do it. You're trying to be honest, but this is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. So by me talking about my golf swing and changes, everybody thought I was doing something different. I was doing the exact same thing I did every year, all my whole career. The only thing I knew was to continue to try and get better. So, like, I didn't turn around and people would say, you changed everything in 2009. No, I didn't. I did the exact same thing I did in 2008, 2007. Every year I tried to get better. Keep getting better. There's nobody thinks that they've got to the end of the road when they've got to the end of the road. Nobody thinks this is it. I'm at the top. They all believe that there's more. So, like, there's just nobody feels like they've got there. So Victor going out and telling, I'm thinking, God, if you don't play well in 5 years' time, they're going to scream at you that, oh, you were changing your swing, you weren't happy. This will, just being honest sometimes can be a dangerous thing. That will come back many, many times, because it came back to me, and it's very frustrating, when you go, well, look at the facts. This is, I can tell you all I like. I played better in 2009, but I didn't win. So people don't care. I can tell you that I think one of the gambling guys that does the stats had me at the third best player in 2012. So, it just doesn't, it's a weird one, isn't it? Like, but, you have to be true to yourself and do what got me there was working on things, not changing, but continually trying to get better. What happened to me, pivotal, I would say 100% the Rory factor I ended up with the yips in 2012, I think it was. I started, I was just trying too hard. I needed to be better, and I spent too much time, always felt like I needed more and more, which essentially, when you're at your best, you believe you can win. If you believe you can win with your B game, your A game turns up. If you believe you need your A game, your B game turns up. Yeah. And you can see it with all these guys. But by about 2015, I know I won the States in 2015, Europe 2016. I was burnt out. So, like, I was trying ever so hard, and it was hard work. Like, I would go out and play a round of golf, and I would work so hard for that round of golf, and it'd be like 71, 72, 73. Like, I'm talking hard. Like, it'd be like, after the round of golf, I'd be drained. It was just really, and what happened is I missed the FedEx Cup playoffs. I went to Europe. I played Czech Republic, Crown Montana, Hamburg, Amsterdam, and Wentworth. I just had a ball of a time. Like, look at those 5 venues. Like,
well,
you're
back in this, I love it.
And there was Irish guys there. This is the difference. There was other Irish guys. So I'm not on my own, lonely out in the States. And the States kills Europeans. Now, this has been a great boom for them with this 10 players, because I know I have, even the events I've played in the States over the last couple of years, I'm having breakfast with Europeans that I wouldn't talk to in Europe. Like, I know everybody thinks we're all great friends. We all mix in Europe, but we stick with our own in Europe. I hang out with the Irish guys. They, Spanish hang out with the Spanish. We all, that's the way we're. But in the States, I'm having breakfast with Spanish guys. I'm, Swedish guys, because they're European. So it's a big help that there's a number of them over there. Huge help. But I got to tell you, I got burnt out. So I had those 5 events. I hung out with Irish guys, and I went, you know what? I really, really like golf. So what's happening? What's going wrong? And I thankfully figured out that there was things. I basically couldn't keep up the pace of who I was as a young man. So, getting up 3.5 hours before your tea time to spend, like, I would spend 45 minutes in my room, half an hour with a physio, and then a 20-minute dynamic warm-up, and then an hour on the range every morning.
And it was just sapping.
You just can't do it. You can do it as a young man. Like, and maybe you shouldn't do it as a young man. Maybe it should be a 20-minute warm-up, full stop. Look, but I just couldn't keep up the pace. So I started, I even cut it down to about 20 minutes on the range at one stage. Just started to take it easy. And I think what fully encompasses that, encapsulates the whole idea is, if you ask me, back in 2010, hey, we're going for dinner at 8 o'clock, I'd have gone, I've got physio from 7 to 8, and then I want to get to the, I've got to get something to eat, I've got to get to the gym. No, thank you. Now, if the lads say we're going for dinner at 8 o'clock, I go, yeah, I'm going for dinner at 8 o'clock. Everything else can wait. Everything else can change. So my priorities changed. I relaxed. I enjoyed it more and played better because of it. Now, interesting, as I've played better, the temptation to go back to, get up and do your for me to get a kick out of a plank back in the day, I'd have to be there for 6 minutes to get any sort of benefit, as in, these are stupid things, but this is, you get yourself into these things, and it's a hard line, because you do play better golf when you enjoy the life and the lifestyle. So which is it, hard work or enjoying it? There's a balance.
But the enjoyment,
if you could go back to sort of 2009, 2010, 2011 Padraig Harrington, what would you tell him?
Well, I do it now if I really had something to say. So a couple of things I say: prepare for Sunday, not for Thursday. If you're in contention, do not go to the range and practice. So those would be the two things I would change. Is definitely not practicing on a Saturday evening. That's out. Definitely look to Sunday as, how do I get myself to Sunday in the freshest possible mind. So those two things. I think self-confidence, believing that you're good enough, is a hard one, because you have to believe it. You can't fake that. So, like, for example, if I was out there at a PGA Tour event and I have a 10-footer on Thursday afternoon for a par on the 12th hole, I'm genuinely thinking, if I miss this, I'm thinking about the cut line. Whereas if I'm on the Champions Tour, it won't be a Thursday afternoon, it'll be a Friday afternoon, first round, and I have a 10-footer on the 12th hole for par, I'm thinking, I'll make plenty of birdies, I'll have a chance on Sunday, so I'll hold the 10-footer. Whereas the other one, I won't hold it, as in you build it up too much. So that's a belief. So that's very hard to you can't, some people try and fake it and it can work. I think my caddy reminds me, I'd like to prepare better for tournaments, as in I probably should have, like, I could peak for those majors, I probably should try and do that more often. But I don't allow myself, because I'm still chasing the dream of being a better ball striker and better at this. That might be keeping me going, though, chasing that dream, that enthusiasm, that optimism. But I'm running out of events. I still try and prepare properly for majors. So I will still cut out the practice and the technical work and get into the mental game for the majors. But there has to be a deep down belief. But strangely enough, it is coming back.
You'll have to do the European Club before Portrush this year. That's the...
Well, it's hard. You know what? I used to have power, where I could demand that they run a tournament and finish it on a Saturday afternoon.
Well, that was the key, wasn't it?
Yeah, I used to have this power. I tell them where they're having the Irish Open at one stage. It's amazing how things move on, But yeah, look, strangely enough, I'm in a good place with my golf now. So I don't need much physically. So I am back. The Champions Tour has helped me, because I'm back in that comfort zone where I know and I see, hang on a second, if I do leave it alone and trust, I am good enough. I'm not on the... It's a fine line, and we see it all, as again, it's back to that, look, if you can believe that your B game is good enough, your A game turns up. It's just so annoying that is a deep down belief.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Just as obviously you've been phenomenal with your time. A very parting gift, very very last parting gift. You've been mega generous,
I'm looking at this Diet Coke here, and I want to get
have a
into it.
crack away. No,
Unofficial
as a
sponsor.
parting gift,
I got to actually give you one for my obsession in golf as it is now, right? So yesterday I had my father died from esophageal cancer, so I had a scope down my throat yesterday. I turned down the sedation so I could come home and practice.
it's a bit much. I heard that downstairs. It's a bit much.
Oh my God.
But just a final one. For none of us are getting any younger. You've been remarkable in your career of not only maintaining the swing and the speed, or you've probably got a little bit quicker as you've got a little bit older. As a parting gift to anyone listening, what's the secret sauce in just maintaining your body and continuing to get better?
Well, there's no doubt as an old person, you got to fight it. That's the number one rule. Like if I stopped playing golf, I'd be literally sitting watching the shopping channel, string vest in my jocks, ice creams, chocolate ice cream stains on the vest. I'd be buying stuff and never opening it. The boxes would arrive but never get opened. So if you don't keep going, retirement is incredibly overrated. You've got to be working on your own terms. So as regards that, outside what seems to be very, like, golf is brilliant for aging. We know it extends your life. So get out there, be active. The social aspect of golf, moving. If you can, lift weights, keep muscle on you. That's very important for aging. As regards golf, most people have it in their heads. I'm sorry, somebody who's my age, 50 years of age, they're in business, but they've got an eye, they've got an eye in retirement and they're going to play more golf. Well, you're not going to enjoy your golf at 75 years of age if you're hitting the ball 120 yards in the air. And you're going to lose between 50 and 75, you are going to lose speed, and it doesn't matter what you do. So what you've got to do at 50 is push it up now in order to have a reasonable amount when you've got time to enjoy it, when you're 65 years of age, retired. So I would recommend to everybody, within physical limits, they have to improve the psychological side of hitting the ball harder. So yes, go to the gym. Yes, work on your technique in terms of what you see. You can see it on Paddy's Golf Tips. There's loads of stuff like that. But ultimately, probably once a week, you've got to lose inhibition and lash at the ball. So if you can lash at the ball at, say, 110 mile an hour clubhead speed. Now, I mean lash at it. Get a monitor. You got a PRGR monitor for $240. It'll give you the feedback. You can lash it at 110. You'll probably be able to swing smooth at 100.
I dream of 110, by the way.
But you say you dream at 110. You dream at 110 at making contact with the ball and hitting it straight. I'm asking you to swing at 110 with no inhibition. I'm talking like you're trying to fell a tree with an axe. I'm talking the most ferocious, vicious, whatever you want. Get to the top speed, and then 100 mile an hour will feel slow to you. So your problem is you're thinking, I've got to make a golf swing at 110. I don't care how you get to 110. I don't care how you cheat it. If you can get to 110, I swear to you, your golf swing will feel slow and smooth at 100. So your goal is always to break the ceiling any way possible. I'm not telling everybody to go out and slash it on the golf course, but 20 balls a week is not too much to ask for. And if you can push that ceiling up, if you could push the ceiling up by 5-10 mile an hour now, you'd probably find that in 20 years time, you might have lost the extra ceiling, but you're probably still at where you're currently at. And you'd be, I can tell you what, if you could swing at 100 mile an hour when you're 65 years of age, you're
competitive.
Oh, you'd be a king. You'd be a king now. Like
hitting that flat draw. You play against them occasionally and they hit it no spin, 100 mile an hour. They are seriously good players in their 60s.
I'm fast. My brother's 100 mile an hour, 150 mile an hour. In a warm day, with no spin, he's pitching it like 270. And, it's running out, 265, 270, it's running out 20, 30 years. off the
I'll get
tee.
it done.
Off the tees they're playing off. They're kings.
Padraig, you've been phenomenal, and I'm sure
thank you so
whoever's
much.
listening already knows, but obviously you've got that wonderful YouTube channel with your Paddy's tips, so we'd recommend anyone to go across and make sure they check out
You know what?
your stuff.
I love giving the tips. I just love talking to amateurs directly. The problem in golf, and it's a little bit, the game you see on Instagram and things like that, social media, is what you would teach an elite golfer. So yeah, if you've got a 14-year-old, tell him to spin the hell out of it, because he'll get stronger and figure out how to keep his arms up. But you're 50 years of age and you start turning your hips fast. There is no way your body's keeping up or your arms keeping up with that. And you're going to cause a whole load of problems. They just can't do it. But this is the whole problem, not problem with golf. We love it. So it's not a problem. But they're right. But it's just not for you.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to focus on the person who, isn't necessarily going to hit golf balls every single day, who can manage to swing like a 14 or 15-year-old or an 18-year-old who's physically strong enough to do those moves. So yeah, it's about just trying to get golfers to have a little bit more, like I say to people, like if you've got a shot from 100 yards into the green, there should be zero physical effort in that. That's just a long chip shot. That's all it is. It's a long chip shot. You should not be thinking you need, like, if you think you need to pivot and turn your shoulders, I mean consciously pivot. I'm not saying, of course you pivot. There are moves in your shoulders turn. But I'm saying if you think you need to make a shoulder turn to hit a ball 100 yards, you're deluded. It's essentially a long chip shot.
They're always great takes. Padraig, it's been so good. And thank you so much for having us in your house today and making us feel welcome and finding the time for today. So, and best of luck this year.
And you got to do swing thought now as well.
What's my new swing thought?
Oh, I don't know, swing with the right foot swing.
Oh, right. Yeah, we know. Yeah, that's that is a new obsession. I got a bit of we did some ground force reactions, which is the buzzword nowadays. But a little change there. I'd be tearing the ground apart for
ripping it.
Yeah.
Thank God he's not wearing nails. Thanks, Padraig.
Boys, thank you.
Watch this.